From the Storm Track 5 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist David Boyd. We're breaking in for a tornado warning. It's located just to the west of the viewing area, but the warning includes our viewing area. And so this tornado warning is in effect for Lee County and also Hancock County. It's in place till 12:30 this afternoon. The storm is also impacting Claiborne County. The tornado warning in effect until 12:30 this afternoon. So we're going to zoom in a little bit closer and show you the latest on this storm. We've been watching it and it's been intensifying. There's not a lot of lightning with these storms today. It's really just a line of heavy rain, but there's some intense rotation here just to the west of Sneedville. This is around Riley, so it's actually still in Claiborne County right now. The potential tornado is still in Claiborne County, but it's racing to the northeast very quickly. These storms are moving to the northeast at about 65 miles an hour. So that's also leading to the potential for some damaging winds. So we're going to put a storm track on this storm as it races to the northeast at 65 miles an hour. Still to the west of Sneedville. Moving to the northwest at 65. You see it's going to be going quite a distance in that time frame. So that's going to be putting it around the Lee County Airport around 12:23, in the Jonesville area around 12:30. I'll step out of the way so you can read some of these communities. Pennington Gap around 12:47 and Dryden at 12:57. Now that's if the storm holds together. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this cell. So there's a line of some heavy rains right in here. And so we're looking at the radar and we're looking at the velocity. So the red is going away from the radar, green is toward the radar. And so anytime we see a little bit of a circulation, that's when we're concerned about the rotation. So we're going to zoom in a little bit closer. And again, we're going to recap the warnings as well. So the area in red, that's the tornado warning. So it includes Sneedville, includes most of Lee County. It also includes far western Scott County. So even though there's a tornado warning in place, the potential tornado is still well back to the west. So we're going to zoom in again a little bit closer on our Power 5 Doppler radar. And the storm is moving pretty quickly. So now it looks like the potential rotation is already in the Ewing area. So everybody here in the Ewing area and around the Lee County Airport, you need to be taking shelter right now. You want to head to an interior room away from windows as this intense line of storms moves through. Even if there's not a tornado, there's still some very strong winds with this storm system, estimated to be at around 60 miles an hour or so. And so that could cause some damage alone, just those strong wind gusts. So again, to recap, there's not a lot of lightning, so this isn't a typical severe thunderstorm setup. There's a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere, and there's not a lot of instability, but just enough instability, enough fuel for these storms to get them potentially rotating. Now, there's also severe thunderstorm warnings further down to the south. So severe thunderstorm warning, that's in place for the Mooresburg area, and just to the west of Rogersville, severe thunderstorm warning until 12:30. And another severe thunderstorm warning far western Greene County, also Hamlin County, that in place until 12:30. But of course, the most urgent situation is further to the north in Lee County. That's where the tornado warning is in place. So again, this is for Hancock County, northern Hancock County, especially north of Sneedville, until 12:30. Most of Lee County, and again, far western Scott County, technically in the tornado warning. So
take graphics 3. I'll show you a couple of things here about where you want to go in your house if there's a tornado.
Okay, let's go over graphics 3. And Ricky is joining me now. He has a mic on as well.
Yeah, so here's the thing. If you're in this tornado warning, you want to go to the center part of your house away from windows. A lot of people around here don't have basements, and if you do, that's the best place to go. But if you don't have a basement, the lowest floor of your home will work just fine. You want to go put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Get towards the center part of your house. Bathrooms are usually great. Closets are great. Interior hallways, those are great places to go. Now, if your kid has a bicycle helmet, if you have a motorcycle helmet, a football helmet, anything like that, take it, put it on your head, because we've learned over the years that by wearing these helmets, you can significantly reduce your risk of injury from flying debris in a tornado. Want to move away from those exterior windows. Don't try to look for this tornado, because here's the thing. It's likely going to be wrapped in rain, which means when it approaches you, all you're going to see is a big old wall of water, and then you're going to get the strong winds right after that. So, David, this storm is really racing off quickly to the north and east, and I'm looking... Actually, David, we may have a confirmed tornado on this, because I'm looking at correlation coefficient. It's kind of messy. This time of year, it can be a little troublesome to plot
Okay.
because a lot of the leaves get lofted.
Yeah, let's go back over to graphics 1. Yeah.
But if you look in parts of Hancock, we're right there, moving into Hancock County now, there's a little bit of a reduced CC signature. And I'm going to tilt that up.
Yeah, there's definitely some intense winds with this storm. So like you said, it could be kicking up some leaves. It also looks like there's not really a tight couplet on this storm system. So, so that means that if there is a tornado, it does not appear to be very intense, but the storm is rotating. So we'll pull up the green screen once again here, and we're watching this line. There's the heavy rain, Rose Hill down to west of Sneedville. It's racing to the north and to the east. So again, if we look at just the wind speeds, these are the bright colors. And so that's the intense winds that's going to be moving into Jonesville. So again, even if there's not a tornado, we need to be treating this seriously because of the very strong wind gust. Then if we zoom in a little bit closer, so now what we're looking for is a little bit more rotation now up near Rose Hill. So a little bit concerned about this. Also could be producing a tornado around Rose Hill right now, moving to the north and east. And then further down to the south, at this point, it looks more like straight line winds would be a concern. Again, so there's the tornado warning in effect for the red areas. So tornado warning in place until 12:30. This includes northern Hancock County, most of Lee County, and also far western Scott County. But the storm is still back to the west over western parts of Lee County. So we're going to put another storm track on this entire line, even the part that does not have a tornado warning on it. But it's racing off to the northeast at about 60 miles an hour. So with it moving that fast, it's going to be moving into the Sneedville area by 12:10, moving into Jonesville around 12:15 or so, Pennington Gap 12:30, and then potentially into Rogersville area by around 12:45. So again, it's the most northern part of this storm that we're concerned about. This storm has a history of producing wind damage as well. So I wanted to show you this. All of these icons right here are reports of wind damage along that storm's path. So that's one of the indicators that we look at in the confidence level of issuing these warnings, is when it has a history of producing some damage. If we look at the shear parameter, I think it's going to be better to use this here. There's nothing really sticking out. Put this into motion, kind of give you a big picture here. There's still some strong winds along this line. It's stretching now from west of Jonesville, south of Sneedville, and just to the west of Mooresburg. And since it has a history of producing wind damage, we wanted to give you a heads up about this storm system that's racing to the north and to the east. So it looks like we just got an update on the tornado warning. So I'm going to pull up the latest on this. So at noon, severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Jonesville or 13 miles east of Millsboro, moving northeast at 60 miles an hour. So it's still radar indicated at this point. No confirmation of a tornado on the ground, but there's a significant rotation with this storm. And it's still moving to the northeast pretty quickly at about 60 miles an hour. So that's the latest on the warning here. We'll zoom in a little bit closer. And turn off the warnings here. Analyzing this, and it still looks like for the most part this is a straight line wind damage event, but still will be causing some wind damage, just maybe not a tornado. We're still looking for any tight circulations, not really seeing that at this point, but still the possibility of a tornado there in the Jonesville area as it lifts to the northeast, races about 60 miles an hour. Another quick update on the severe thunderstorm warning. It's a little bit further to the south. So this severe thunderstorm warning includes far western Hawkins County, I should say, southern Hancock County until 12:30. And checking for any recent storm reports. want to zoom in and show you that most recent storm reports coming in here out of Claiborne County.
David,
Some trees knocked down at about 1140 there around New Tazewell. So it looks like that's been the main concern there in Claiborne County, but watching for the possibility of this storm producing a brief spin-up tornado. Ricky, what do you have right now?
David, just want to remind some people, that if you lose power or something like that, if you're not able to watch on television, you can also tune to our mobile app, our Storm Track 5 mobile app. We just started our Facebook Live as well. If you want to join in there and maybe share it with some of your friends who may be in the path of this tornado, not just in Lee County, but the storm eventually be making its way up into Wise County. No official warning for that area yet, but that's kind of the next in line if we go over the next, say, 30 to 45 minutes towards the Devil's Bathtub area, Pennington Gap, places like that. So keep in mind that those areas are going to be under the gun pretty soon from this line, if not a tornado risk, at least certainly a strong wind risk. So you want to make sure you have a way to get warnings if they come out. Download our Storm Track 5 mobile app. And if you're in any of these areas, you can do so safely after the storm has passed. Send us any damage that you see. Send some pictures to us, wcyb.com/chime in. That's the places to send your pictures. And of course, there's our mobile app as well. You can get that free in the Google Play App Store and also on iTunes. David, back over to you.
Just put a storm track here again on this line of storms, and it's racing to the northeast pretty quickly, about 60 miles an hour. So we're going to be moving into Sneedville here very soon and moving into Jonesville pretty soon, moving into Dryden around 12:35 or so. And so we're going to look at and analyze this storm a little bit closer. There's still very little lightning with this storm. So if we zoom out and show you the big picture, I mean, there's hardly any lightning with this part of the storm, but there's still some very strong winds. And so that's what we're concerned about right now. So we'll zoom in a little bit closer and show you the latest on potential rotation. Still not seeing anything that stands out significantly. Looking inside the storm, nothing. There's a little bit showing up there to the southwest of Lee County Airport, possibility of some wind damage there. And just looking at the velocity, just the wind speeds themselves. We'll take off some of the lighter winds. I mean, these are some pretty intense winds with this storm system. Could be over 60 miles an hour around the Lee County Airport, around Sneedville, and that's moving to the east. So we're looking at the wind speeds on here, and then this is the rain, the heavy rain that's moving into Sneedville. So this is with a cold front that's racing our way, and it's an impressive cold front because right now it's 76 degrees in the Tri-Cities. Behind the front, it's 59 in Knoxville, and it's 47 in Crossville. So it's a very intense cold front that's moving into the Tri-Cities right now. And Chief Meteorologist Dave Dirks is joining us now with he's going to be helping provide coverage. And Ricky, I know you've been keeping an eye on this storm as well. Dave, so Dave Dirks has a mic on as well. So
yeah, okay, yeah, we're mic'd up here. So it looks like this line of storms that's developing right now primarily looks like some straight line winds right now as far as damaging gusts perhaps. But there has been some rotation indicated within that cell that's moving into and through Lee County right now. So it's still a rather dangerous storm. Of course, we want folks to make sure that they're in their safe place right now as this storm continues to approach the Jonesville area, extending south towards Sneedville as well.
Almost have to say the strongest area of rotation. David, look at this as well with me. It's kind of between the Lee County Airport area and Sneedville, so kind of right on the Virginia-Tennessee line.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at the velocity here over the last little bit and watch that circulation come up, it looks like the area that they were concerned about was almost right over the Virginia-Tennessee state line right now.
Well, I noticed a little bit showing up on the correlation coefficient indicating the possibility of some wind damage there in that same area you were mentioning there, north of Sneedville to the south of Lee County Airport. At this point...
It certainly is weaker than it was.
Right. And so the tornado warning continues, but at this point it looks like it's more of a straight line wind event. But that still could be causing some wind damage with the winds potentially gusting over 60 miles an hour. And
Well, some of the winds aloft are like, what, 50
Right.
to 70 miles per hour, and plus the fast forward momentum of this line of storms, all that can really create a strong, downdraft in advance of right near in advance of that line of storms. So there's just a lot of wind energy involved with this system right now. And even if we don't necessarily get a tornado report, which is still obviously still possible, that tornado warning in effect, there's still going to be the likelihood that we're going to see some wind damage as this line of storms continues to progress through Hancock and Lee County. Of course, then moving into Hawkins and Scott County as well, up toward Lee County, and then eventually it may build southward to include the remainder of the Tri-Cities area as well. So certainly a dangerous setup right now as we go through the next couple of hours. It's going to be a fast event, it looks like, but
yeah, because I mean this is going to be out of the Tri-Cities by around 3 or 4.
yeah, and so I mean that's obviously going to be not so good news for the next 2 or 3 hours, but it will be good news for trick-or-treaters as we head through the 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock 5 to 8 o'clock time frame when folks are getting ready to head out and do their trick-or-treating. So obviously now we just urge our viewers to stay informed on the various warnings that are issued here over the next several hours. And when the warnings are issued, we want you all to make sure that you are finding your safe place. So as fast as these storms are moving, about 55 miles to the east-northeast, that's going to move things pretty quickly into the Tri-Cities here over the next hour or two. And so be prepared to take shelter in your safe place and make those plans now before the storms arrive. As I'm pretty certain that we're going to continue to see these warnings advancing eastward, David, don't you think, and Ricky, as we go through the next couple of hours. It's probably going to be an event that will likely involve many counties here over the next couple of hours, whether severe or tornado. Probably more severe than tornado.
There is so much wind energy aloft, Dave, that when these thunderstorms get up a couple thousand feet, they just are able to tap into that energy and bring it right down to the surface, and that's what's happening even outside the risk for tornadoes. Certainly the northern part of the line there, David, as you've been doing a little analysis, looks like the strongest part, basically from about the Morristown area north into Lee County.
And just got a new severe thunderstorm warning. So we'll come back over here to the weather wall and take a look at this new severe thunderstorm warning. Just an extension of what we've been tracking further to the south. So this now includes all of Hawkins County. So this severe thunderstorm warning in place until 12:45 includes far eastern Hamblin, all of Hawkins County, portions of Hancock County, and also Scott County. This severe thunderstorm warning in place until 12:45. And severe thunderstorms are moving northeast at about 65 miles an hour.
It's moving northeast at 65, so that's even faster than what the last warning was indicating. And so these storms are just moving along incredible speeds now at 65 miles per hour. And Ricky, as you were mentioning, with that upper level wind just above the surface being so strong and this very fast moving line of storms at 65 miles per hour, that will no doubt be producing a line of some strong to possibly damaging thunderstorm winds as it continues to push eastward through Lee County and Hawkins County, eventually into Wise, Scott, Sullivan, Greene County here over the next hour or so.
Yeah, and even if the storm, doesn't bring those winds, it's just the speed alone that it's moving will certainly bring some gusty winds. And something else to think about, over the past couple of days, we've been pretty wet. We've had some rain showers on and off, so the ground's, believe it or not, even though we've been in a drought, kind of saturated outside. And so winds that may not be even up to 50 to 60 miles per hour could still down some trees, things like that. You're starting to get in this time of the season where a lot of the leaves are blowing off, stuff like that as well. So some of these lighter wind gusts, 40, 50, could still bring the trees down.
Absolutely, and there's no doubt we're probably going to see fairly widespread 40 to 50 mile an hour winds as this line of storms comes through the viewing area here over the next couple of hours.
They have continued the severe thunderstorm warning for Hancock and Hawkins County. It's going to go until 12:30. We have really two different warnings in effect. We've got this tornado warning that's in effect. That one goes for a little bit longer here until about, that one goes until 12:30. And the severe thunderstorm warning also goes until 12:30. And there is the continuation of the tornado warning again. That one now saying the tornado right there near Jonesville. So right where that little velocity is, where the green and the red are coming together, looks like where the best chance of the tornado is going to be. David, I'll let you jump back in here and do a little radar analysis.
All right, so we'll go back over here to the green screen, and we're keeping an eye on this part of the line right here, where we're starting to see some of the brighter greens and brighter reds. That's where the tornado is most likely. So that does include the Jonesville area. Zoom in a little bit closer and also show you this is near Ben-Hur. and also near Sand Springs School, and still to the west of Stickleyville. But the storm system is moving pretty quickly. But again, watching for that potential rotation near Jonesville. That's where the potential tornado is right now. Still radar indicated. We haven't had any reports of a sighting yet, and still the most recent reports of wind damage back in Claiborne County. But we'll probably get some delay reports as this storm has gone now through much of Hancock County.
But it looks like, David, the stronger winds aloft there, where the radar's picking up kind of that broad shear extending across much of Lee County, but really from just southwest of Jonesville up towards Sugar Run Road. That seems to be where we have perhaps some of the strongest winds aloft, and where perhaps the likelihood, if we do have a tornado on the ground, that's where it's likely to be right now. So that storm moving off to the northeast at about 60 miles per hour. And again, this tornado warning that's in effect for central Hancock County, Lee County, and west central Scott County stays in effect until 12:30. It's a radar indicated rotation. Like you pointed out, David, we don't have any confirmation, any eyewitness report, any storm reports from the ground that there's a tornado with it. But certainly the possibility is still there, and that's why the National Weather Service did extend that tornado warning through 12:30, or at least moved it into parts of Scott County as well. So definitely a dangerous storm. Be aware that these storms can kind of catch you by surprise as fast as they are moving. If you have family or friends that are living, downstream of this storm, it's important that you, if you think they may be unaware that there's a warning that there might be a possible tornado there in Lee County heading toward the northeast, give them a call, give them a heads up, and make sure that everybody as many people can be aware of this dangerous storm as possible here over the next little while. The tornado warning does remain in effect until 12:30, but it very well could be extended eastward if that rotation continues to be indicated by radar. And so folks in Scott County, perhaps even into Wise County, that is some areas that needs to be on the lookout as well. Of course, we still have a severe thunderstorm warning, David, farther to the south, and so we don't want to discount this even though there's no tornado warning. Certainly some damaging thunderstorm wind gusts, some straight line wind gusts will be possible in that flashing area that you see there on the screen, and that does include areas of Rogersville, just to the south of Sneedville. Some of the areas that would be include as far as the severe thunderstorm warning, Hamblin, Hancock, Hawkins, Scott, Churchill are some of the cities, Mooresburg, Mount Carmel, and pushing into the Kingsport area. That severe thunderstorm warning just kind of bumps up into the Kingsport area right now. So we want to let our folks in Kingsport know that this line of storm quickly advancing into your region of Sullivan County. So what time does that severe thunderstorm warning expire, David or Ricky?
12:30.
At 12:30. So at 12:30, or even probably before 12:30, we'll likely see an extension of these warnings to the east, and we really got to emphasize how fast these storms are moving. It's not like a situation where it may take 3 or 4 hours for a line of storms to move across the area. It's going to be more or less maybe a couple of hours that this line of storms will be moving from west to east across the viewing area. So it's going to be a quick moving event, but that also will lend to, I think, the more likelihood that we'll see some damaging straight line winds as well with this line of storms.
Let me correct myself real quick, Dave. It's actually 12:45.
All right, so the severe thunderstorm warning is still 12:45.
The one that from Kingsport west is 12:45.
If we come back over to the weather wall, I've been looking at the leading edge of this line of showers and thunderstorms. And right along this line, the leading edge has some very strong winds, at least aloft, of around 60 to 70 miles an hour. And some of these showers can then bring some of those strong winds down to the surface. So even if there's not a tornado here in Lee County, a likelihood of seeing some damaging wind gusts. And so again, that's from Pennington Gap southward to Blackwater, moving northeast toward Dryden and Duffield at this hour. And then the velocity, the wind speed's not quite as strong further to the south, but still the potential for some damaging winds also in Hawkins County. And further down to the south, no warnings. The warning has now been is no longer in effect for Greene County. So now we're just concerned about the northern part of this storm system.
David, if you want to take GR here, if you'll click that for me, and we'll take that. We'll show you kind of where little areas of rotation are. And I think the primary area is going to be basically from Pennington Gap into Jonesville. Right in that little area is where the best chance of a rotation is with this thunderstorm right now. And these lines that move through like this, what happens a lot of times is these tornadoes will spin up very quickly. They'll just kind of go up. Sometimes they don't last very long. Sometimes they may only be there for a second or two. And after that, they're done. And so that's certainly something that we could be seeing with this system. There we go, we get it punched up. And so what I'm showing you here is the rotation in the thunderstorm. So all where you see these little green areas, that's where there's a slightly higher amount of rotation. Not saying there's a tornado on the ground, but certainly there's a chance where the atmosphere is rotating enough to where there could be some type of rotation. You can see it kind of lines up right where these other colors are here, where we're seeing the strong winds from one direction, strong winds from another direction, right near Jonesville, a little bit of rotation in there. So that's kind of the areas we're watching, is all these little kinks along the line where there's the possibility for a quick spin-up tornado as this line quickly races off to the north and east. So this tornado warning goes for about another 10 minutes here. Only includes Lee County and portions of Scott County now. I think we can give the all clear in Hancock County.
Yeah, and further to the south, that severe thunderstorm warning continues for eastern Hancock County, all of Hawkins County, and the severe thunderstorm warning does include far western Sullivan County, but the storm is still a good distance away. But as we've been talking about, it's moving very quickly, so we're going to put another storm track on this entire line as it races to the northeast at about 60 miles an hour. So that's going to be putting it in the Rogersville area here very soon, next 10 minutes or so, and then moving it into the Big Stone Gap area on 12:45, and Norton about 1 o'clock, and at the current speed moving into Kingsport around 1:15, 1:20 or so. We'll of course keep a close eye on this, see if the storm changes speeds a little bit. But as Ricky was pointing out, the most intense storm is in Lee County, stretching from Blackwater northward to Jonesville, also to Pennington Gap. So it's moving towards Stickleyville, toward Jennings Store, Canton, Stickleyville, Dryden. You're going to be seeing very strong winds very soon if you're not already, Deep Springs, and also around Duffield. So we're keeping a very close eye on the winds. It definitely has very strong straight line winds. The question is whether or not any of this is actually beginning to rotate to produce a tornado, but there is the potential of a tornado along this line. But even without the tornado, likelihood of some very strong winds knocking down some trees and some power lines. And Ricky, if you can check the latest observations from the Lee County Airport and see if they reported anything significant as that storm came through just a little bit ago.
And David, if you go back to that wind field scene right there, and we'll show you, see that little area that has the bowing structure right through here. We got kind of a bowing out. That often indicates where we could have the strongest winds coming down and pushing that line of storms a little bit outward. Oftentimes that's where some of your stronger winds are. And also, you were talking about, Ricky, how we sometimes get those little brief but weak but spin up tornadoes that can kind of come up out of nowhere. May not last long, but they can of course do damage on the ground if they do touch the ground. So it's kind of where we see those little kinks in the line where we can get the rotation that will cause these spin-up tornadoes to develop. So right now, I mean, looks like, wouldn't you guys say, anywhere from the northern part of Lee County and then toward the Pennington Gap area and then off to the east of Jonesville, maybe perhaps where, and southeast of Jonesville, where we may possibly get one of those brief spin-up tornadoes as that tornado warning continues until about 12:30. Here's the wind shear Ricky's putting on the wind shear, which shows us, you know, where the strongest winds are aloft and how these winds are moving away from or toward the radar. So those areas, Ricky, have the potential perhaps to still cause some brief spin-up tornadoes as we go through the next little while.
Yeah, or certainly at least some enhanced wind potential as those storms move through there. And, you know, a lot of times people don't take severe thunderstorm warnings seriously, Dave.
Right.
But with the wind energy aloft today, you certainly want to, because if you get a strong wind gusts at 70, 80 miles per hour, that can be the equivalent of a weak tornado. Right. And so you want to respect the severe thunderstorm warnings, the ones out here across Sullivan County, parts of Hawkins County, and into Scott County. Even though it may not be a tornado warning, still use a little bit of caution, move away from those windows. And, you know, it is getting close to lunchtime, or is lunchtime here. And so if you're thinking about heading out for lunch, let's say in Church Hill, Rogersville, Duffield, Gate City, places like that, maybe wait a little bit. Wait till 1 o'clock. Take a late lunch today and give yourself a little extra time until this line of storms moves through, and that way you won't get caught out in it and perhaps not know or have a place to go if you're caught out in an unfamiliar place when this storm approaches.
And considering also that these probably, at least in the intense part of the storms, aren't going to last more than 15 minutes to 30 minutes probably. That's going to be the most dangerous time frame as this line of storms come through. So it's not going to be something that lasts a long time. We do expect some showers behind this main line, but as this line comes through a given area, which now stretches from just west of Big Stone Gap in Kentucky, and then through Pennington Gap, and then extending down toward Itsen in Hawkins County and Rogersville in Hawkins County, once this line of storms goes through, that's going to probably be the end threat of severe weather for the day. There's a strong wind aloft, as we've been talking about, up above the surface, not too many thousands of feet, of 50 to 75 miles per hour. And David, you were showing some of those winds aloft up to 75 to 80 miles per hour. Now, of course, the radar beam, which is in Morristown, gets quite a bit above the ground by the time it's going through these storms in Lee County and Wise County, and then southbound toward Hawkins and Sullivan County. But still, a lot of that energy can be transported to the surface, and that's why these storms may produce those damaging winds, even if we don't get a particular report of a tornado. But certainly here for the next few minutes, at least until that tornado warning expires, and National Weather Service may extend it, but we need to just assume that the possibility is there. And like Ricky was saying, if you want to maybe avoid traveling until this line of storms moves through, we still got some time farther eastward and into areas around Greenville, for example, and Bristol and Johnson City before this line comes through. But it's not going to be that much longer before that occurs.
So Dave, we're going to go back over to the weather wall and show you that we're keeping a close eye again on this line of storms, and we're kind of in between radars a little bit. So we'll zoom out and show you that we use a couple of different radars. One is up here in Jackson, Kentucky, and the other is down here in Morristown. So one of the tools that we have on our Power 5 Doppler radar is that we can move our view around to actually look at the storm at two different radars, and so both of them are showing a very similar setup. That at this point we're not seeing any very strong rotation, nothing very obvious that a tornado is on the ground, but some very strong winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour that could still be causing some damage right now in Dryden and Keokee, and moving to the northeast, again, very quickly at about 60 to 70 miles an hour. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on that over here over the next little bit. Ricky, do you have any updates?
Yeah, so the Weather Service kind of deciding now if we're going to keep this tornado warning in effect. As you were saying, I certainly think the radar out of Jackson, Kentucky has a better bead on this storm, especially on the storm relative velocity. You can see the rotation, or at least the weaker rotation there, pretty good. It certainly looks a little weaker on the last scan that just came in here. We'll get a new update in just a few moments. But I think we can give some more all clears, David, from Jonesville, Rose Hill. They actually just issued a new severe thunderstorm warning on this storm. So what this tells me is that they probably think the tornado risk is a little bit lower with this storm as it continues up into Wise County. And so they may drop this tornado warning soon, just kind of use the severe thunderstorm warning that's now in effect for Lee, Scott, and Wise counties until 1:15, including the cities of Norton, including UVA Wise areas, Party, Coburn area, Pound, pretty much near Jenkins as well. They'll probably replace that tornado warning with this severe thunderstorm warning.
Yeah.
And they've also, it looks like they've extended that severe thunderstorm warning also now into southeastern Hawkins County, as well as north central Cott County, East Tennessee, and Greene County, East Tennessee. This just coming from the National Weather Service until 1:15 in the afternoon. So there's the new warning that does include portions of, well, at least areas east of where the earlier severe thunderstorm warning has been issued, south especially, but includes a large part of Greene County. That does include the Greenville area, the Tusculum area, also up toward Bayleton and Geraldstown, Mossheim, very close to this line of storms right now. Reflectivity there, as far as the color enhancement, it looks like the stronger part of this storm extends from near Bulls Gap and then southbound into the western part of Greene County. But folks along Interstate 81, really be on the lookout. 11E need to be on the lookout. Maybe stay off these roads until this line of storms moves away. These storms are moving off to the northeast at about 60 miles per hour. So this would indicate approximately about 10 minutes or so from the Mossheim area. 12:38, about 12:50 for Bayleton, close to 1 o'clock for Church Hill. Gate City at about 1:15, Kingsport about 1:30, Colonial Heights a little bit around 1:30 as well, Tri-Cities Airport around 1:50, Bluntville about 1:57, Bristol about 2:57, I believe, or 1:57. David, what you got an update now?
We're going to be watching this tornado warning probably expiring at 12:30, so just a heads up to our production crew that we'll be able to go back to News 5 at noon as normal here in just a couple of minutes, as long as this tornado warning is not extended. But with the National Weather Service issuing the severe thunderstorm warning for just straight line winds into Wise County and also northern Scott County, there's a high likelihood that this tornado warning is just going to be expiring here over the next few seconds. And we'll take one more look at this storm, inside the storm, and so still showing that the same characteristics, where there's still some very strong winds moving in one direction, straight line winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour, but not seeing any obvious signs of rotation. So while that's good that the tornado threat is decreasing, we still have the threat for some strong winds up and down this line. And very quickly, we're going to also pull up, still haven't had any new storm reports, but I'm sure we'll be getting some reports of some trees and power lines down. But one last recap, the tornado warning has expired, so we'll be going back to News 5 at noon here in just a second. But the line extending from around Big Stone Gap and Keokee southward into Duffield, with a strong line of heavy rain and strong winds down to Burgoynesville and Bayleton, all this moving to the north and east rapidly about 60 miles an hour. Of course, we'll be back a little bit later in the show and keeping a close eye on these storms, updating you over the next several minutes. But for now, Preston, we're going to go over to you.
Warnings that are in effect. We have 3 severe thunderstorm warnings, one for Wise County, Lee County, Scott, and also the city of Norton. Another warning in effect. This is going to be Sullivan, Hawkins, Hancock, Hamlin, Lee, and Scott. And a third warning further south. This one is going to be for Hawkins, Cott County, and also Greene County. We've been tracking these storms here about over the past, let's say, 35 minutes, David, as we had a tornado warning earlier for Lee County. That storm has now been downgraded to a severe thunderstorm warning. The tornado warning no longer in effect. What we have now is just these severe thunderstorm warnings. But because these storms have so much wind energy with them today, you want to take these storms seriously, all right? And so as these storms race off quickly to the north and east, they're going to have the potential to produce some strong gusty winds. That's why the Weather Service has issued these severe thunderstorm warnings. Winds could be as strong as 50 to 60 miles per hour across the area as these storms race off quickly to the north and east. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a storm track on the entire line. It's moving around 60 miles per hour. And so we'll draw it from basically the Kentucky-Virginia line further south and east all the way down to Greene County and advance it off here to the north and east. So literally in about an hour, this thing's going to be into Bristol, into Kingsport right before the top of the hour around 12:57. Tri-Cities Airport area 110, Bristol 122, Honaker 125. So as these storms quickly race off to the north and east, you want to be in a safe place before they move in. We've kind of seen little areas of the line, if we'll punch up the chroma key wall here, little areas of the line that have been a little bit stronger, a little bit weaker. So you see the brighter colors right through here. That's likely where we've got a little bit stronger winds than right through down here. So not everyone is going to see those gusty winds 60 miles per hour. But the potential is there for a couple people, certainly a couple communities, to see the potential of those gusty winds as they push through. So let's give you a heads up once again, give you some all clears. Lebanon, Gate City, Kingsport, Bristol, Bloomingdale, Snowflake, Virginia, and parts of Scott County there. Anywhere east of this line still want to remain on guard as this line of storms pushes in. We can give you an all clear in Jonesville, though. We can give you an all clear in Pennington Gap. As you go towards Rose Hill, all clear there. All clear across parts of Hancock County, and then from about Rogersville west in Hawkins County. We can give you the all clear there as well, as these storms have moved out of your area or are continuing to quickly race off to the north and east. Down here further south, if you're in Irwin, if you're in Roan Mountain, nothing in your area for about the next 40 minutes. And you may actually get to escape most of these storms if they don't continue to redevelop here on the southern side. We're seeing a little bit right through here trying to develop a little bit stronger. So we may have to watch that as we go up towards Irwin and then Roan Mountain over the next little bit. But from the kind of the Green Mountain areas north, that's where the higher risk for some strong gusty winds, and of course certainly where those warnings are in effect, we're also monitoring for the potential of those strong gusty winds.
Hey, Ricky,
we got a whole team of weather meteorologists in here right now. Chief Meteorologist Dave Dirks is with us. Meteorologist David Boyd is with us. Dave, we'll go over to you for the latest.
Yeah, we've gotten reports, Sheriff Parsons from Lee County, saying that there are numerous trees down across the county, as well as numerous power lines down. He did not report that we have, at this point in time, any structural damage. Hopefully that will stay as is. Of course, it's early, and we may not have all of the damage reports coming out of Lee County, but at least as of the last check with Sheriff Parsons in Lee County, they have reports of several, or at least numerous trees down across the counties, as well as some power lines down as well. So there's probably some power outages that will be associated with this line of storms as it continues to push off to the east, northeast at about 55 to 60 miles per hour. At this point in time, you can see the severe thunderstorm warnings really lining up and down this line of storms, extending from Wise County, heading into the Wise-Norton area, affecting, for example, Appalachia right now, Big Stone Gap, and then extending into the northern part of Lee County, just pushing off to the east now of Keokee, and of course that would then have it moving into Scott County. So heads up around Duffield, for example, up around the High Knob area, and then extending down through areas getting pretty close to Clinchport, for example, and then southbound into Hawkins County. Has already pushed east of Rogersville, so it looks like the severe threat has ended for Rogersville and Hawkins County, but the whole 11W corridor really moving through Hawkins County is under the gun to the northeast of Rogersville. So this would include Surgoinsville, would include Churchill, would include the Mount Carmel area in Hawkins County. And here's some of the storm reports that we have already coming in. The storm reports not necessarily yet coming in from the National Weather Service in our viewing area. That does not mean there are not trees going down, but that seems to be a pretty common theme with these storms, is that we're getting trees damaged across the area. You can see there around New Tazewell and Claiborne County, other damage reports in areas to the south of Morristown, to east of New Market. So we're likely to get, as we go through the next couple of hours, reports of some tree damage in our viewing area as well, because that line of storms is now just pushing through this region as well. So areas of Sullivan County now not yet under the gun, at least at this time. I would say within the next half hour or so, we're going to be looking at these storms pushing into the Sullivan County, Kingsport area, into Greene County. It's already pretty close to Mossheim, this line of storms, and extending northward into southwestern Virginia as well. So just be mindful here over the next couple of hours. The metro definitely going to see this line of storms come through. And so far, it appears that the National Weather Service is going to continue to issue these warnings further downstream as this line of storms continues to push off to these very rapidly at about 55 to 60 miles per hour. So folks in the path of this line of storms, which is going to include probably a large part of the viewing area over the next hour or two, need to be alert, need to be ready to get into your safe place. That includes those school systems as these severe thunderstorms move eastward. Have your plan in place and your action being taken should a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning be issued for your area. At this point, we do not have any tornado warning in effect, but it's important to realize the difference between a watch and a warning. A severe thunderstorm warning means severe weather is occurring or expected soon, so take the necessary precautions to keep you and your family safe as we go through the next couple of hours.
And let's go back to the radar here, and we'll do a little bit more radar analysis. The Weather Service is going to continue that severe thunderstorm warning for Hawkins, Hancock, Sullivan, and Scott County. So kind of the middle ground warning we've got right here. This warning is going to be in effect until 12:45. So we've got about another, say, roughly 15, a little less than that minutes before that warning, actually less than that, about 5 minutes before that warning expires. This warning is for strong gusty winds, so I'm going to switch back over to the velocity, and this is the way we show you the wind speeds. What radar does is it goes out, it hits things, and then it returns a signal to us and is able to tell us how fast those things that it hits are moving. And so we're watching the area right here between Churchill and Surgoinsville, right along the leading edge. That would be where the strongest potential for these gusty winds would be. Also into Okolona, further north into Clinchport, Duffield, all the way up into Big Stone Gap. So officially, no warning right now for Fort Blackmore, Dungannon, Nicholsville, Hilton, Gate City areas, but the line of storms is quickly advancing off in your direction. So any of those areas, you want to be on alert as this line of storms moves in. Guys, the interesting thing about this line, we keep calling them storms, we call them severe thunderstorm warnings, but there's no lightning with it. So there's 0 reported lightning strikes being detected by our radar right now across the area. So you know, you're not going to really hear these storms as they approach as you would a traditional summertime thunderstorm as it moves in. You're going to just kind of have that wind initially hit your area and then the heavy rainfall with it as well. So interesting to see the lack of lightning. And sometimes, you know, that can be a good indicator of the overall strength of the storms. But today we have just such strong wind energy aloft in the atmosphere that it really doesn't matter if there's lightning or not. If they get up high enough, these storms can tap into that wind energy and bring it down to the surface. We heard earlier there were some trees down across Lee County. And, you know, maybe a couple trees down doesn't sound like a big deal. But if they hit someone's home, if they hit a car that's moving, things like that, it can be a big deal for sure. So you want to take these storms seriously as they move through, respect them, respect the warnings that are in effect, and just kind of hang out for 30 minutes as they move through. And then after that, everything will be clear, and we'll just be dealing with some, unfortunately, light rain for the rest of the afternoon behind the initial band of heavy rain and wind that's moving through. So 3 severe thunderstorm warnings in effect right now. We'll punch back up the weather wall here, and I'll kind of point out the 3 different warnings that we have. We've got this one right here that's in effect for Wise County. That warning is still going on. This warning here for Scott County into western Sullivan County, basically from Kingsport as you go into Mount Carmel, areas like that. That warning is still in effect. So Mount Carmel, Kingsport, Gate City, heads up, not in your area yet, but moving your way. And then the 3rd warning down here for basically Greene County from about Greenville east. So all the way up Interstate 81. David, maybe we try to pull up some of those TDOT cameras we have across the area and see if we can pick something up as we go south and west there of the 81 split, because those storms are heading up that direction. And then our Kingsport camera may be good as well if we could pull that up. But from UVA Wise up into Clintwood, into Pound, storms racing into your area right now, and we'll continue to push off to the north and east. So
hey,
we'll
Ricky,
do another up.
If you don't mind, let's just do me a favor here. Could you just do take the track that can take us out in mileage? If you could just take from the leading edge of the storms right now and go 120 miles east, and just show folks how fast everything's going to be evolving here over the next couple of hours.
So there's about 60 miles, all right? So about an hour, everything will be moving into that area. And here is 2 hours, all right? 120 miles puts it up into the Radford area in the next 2 hours, Dave.
Yeah, so that indicates how quickly this line of storms is moving, and that's why we emphasize that if you live in the Bristol area, if you live in Lebanon, if you live in Abingdon, Marion, Johnson City, Irwin, any of these cities, Mountain City, Elizabethton, up eastward into the Clintwood area, that's really imminent right now in Clintwood. But even though these storms appear on radar on a normal day, that would be a good couple of hours, 3 hours away perhaps, of the eastern part of our viewing area. But as Ricky just pointed out there, in a couple of hours, these storms are going to be probably racing east of Marion and into the mountains of North Carolina. So it's not going to be a long-lasting event, but certainly is one that could produce some damaging straight line winds, and also the possibility of maybe a brief spin-up tornado. But right now we do not have any tornado warnings in effect for the area, just a line of severe thunderstorm warnings now extending from near Clintwood to Norton, heading toward the Gate City area and getting close now to the Greenville area.
Dave, you know, you were talking about these storms moving east and moving east quickly. The Weather Service starting to issue a tornado watch for areas east of where this line is moving through. I'm waiting to get the update here on the counties and areas that are under that watch. Let's see if it's popped up in our system yet. I'm not sure if it has. There it is. All right. So the areas you see shaded in red, let's take the weather wall full here again, and I'll show you the areas that are under this tornado watch. So really, the areas that we've given the all clear for, Lee County into Hawkins and Hancock counties, west of where the storms have moved through, you're not in that watch, but everywhere east is in that tornado watch. And this actually goes until, time is off there. David, do you want to fix that here? This watch goes until a little bit later in the evening. I believe it's 7 o'clock for these areas. But of course, these storms are not going to be here until 7 o'clock. We're going to quickly move them out of the area. But a watch means that conditions are favorable for severe weather to develop. It's kind of your heads up. Hey, something may happen, while a warning is, hey, something is happening. You want to take action right now to protect yourself and protect your family. So Smith County, Tazewell, Buchanan, pretty much everywhere east of where that line has not moved through yet, you are in that tornado watch. And that actually extends further north and east. Let's see if we can pull up the SPC outlook here. And I want to show you how this whole kind of system is pushing off to the east, and this National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center, which issues our severe weather outlooks, has put a large area, not just in our region, but also east in this enhanced risk from about Johnson County north and east, and then all the way up into Roanoke and also Washington, D.C. That enhanced risk is a level 3 out of 5, and the risk that extends in that orange area is a level 2 out of 5. Certainly a level 2 or even a level 1 is something you have to respect, because you can get strong to severe storms to form in that area.
And it seems like, Ricky, that typically with this kind of a setup, that oftentimes we get the line of storms developing over our area, and then as they race across to the east side of the mountains, instability is greater, the temperatures are warmer. A lot of times these storms really fire up and become even more dangerous east of the mountains, or at least on the east side of the mountains, points eastward, and that's why we have that enhanced risk in that red area. But still, this line of storms still has the potential to produce maybe an isolated brief tornado, but more likely some straight line thunderstorm winds. Now, you notice that the severe thunderstorm warning, at least for this time frame, at least, at this time and point in time, has not been extended. But don't you think it probably will be extended as it continues to push off to the east? You can see there's a little bit of a hole in the severe thunderstorm warnings that run from Wise County, northern Scott County, really Lee County, most likely out of the severe threat right now, but certainly heading into the Gate City area, Kingsport area. Even though that warning has dropped off, I wouldn't be surprised if that is extended here over the next little while. So we'll have to keep an eye on that potential for those severe storms moving eastward into the Tri-Cities here over the next hour. David?
So now we're pulling up the Kingsport camera. We can see some of the dark skies there to the west of Kingsport, the storm still to the west around the Church Hill area. But the storm's approaching, and as Dave mentioned, currently no severe thunderstorm warning, but I'm sure there's still some gusts around 40 to 50 miles an hour, and severe thunderstorms warning could be reissued for the Kingsport area. But for now, just seeing some gusts potentially up to 50 miles an hour. Ricky, over to you.
Yeah, try to pull up our Volunteer Speedway camera. I believe the storms are actually probably a little past that now. As you can see, the rain has come, and the heavier stuff has now moved out of Volunteer Speedway there in Bulls Gap. Quickly advancing off, though, towards the Kingsport area, which is what we were showing you before. We'll try to pull up a few more cameras here in our Ashley Home Store camera network. I'll show you, let's see what we can pull up. Well, a lot of the storms aren't into that area yet. We can pull up Tri-Cities Airport, but it's not close enough there yet. So let's go back to radar, and I'll just show you where the storms are going, because sometimes radar can be our best friend in a situation like this, to show you where the heavier storms are and where they're quickly advancing off to. Hey, Dave, you were talking about how you thought they were going to reissue that warning. Well, you were right, and they have issued a new severe thunderstorm warning. So here is the new warning is in effect now from basically the 81-26 split north into Kingsport, including Gate City, all the way up into Scott County. And then further east, you go into the western portions of Russell County and also the western portions here of Washington County, Virginia. This does include the Bristol, Tennessee and Bristol, Virginia area. So from the Pinnacle all the way south and west along 81. Including the airport exit, places like that. Fort Henry Drive included in this warning. And this is for strong, gusty winds, potentially up to around 50 or 60 miles per hour as this line pushes off to the north and east. So you can almost see the little flare up here. It got a little weaker for a second and then really kind of ramped up right there. And that's what triggered the Weather Service to issue that new severe thunderstorm warning for now Gate City and Kingsport. So let's zoom on in there, and I will do a storm track on this newest warning, which is going until 1:30. This line moving northeast at 55 miles per hour. So a very quick moving line of storms. Once again, we'll draw a line here right along the leading edge, quickly up to the north and east. So not too long before it moves into a lot of these communities. So here's some of your ETAs. Church Hill, 1248, Gate City, 1254, into Colonial Heights, 104, Tri-Cities Airport area, 112, Bloomingdale, Bluntville, around 115, heading into Bristol, both Virginia and Tennessee, around 124, 125, 132 into Rosedale, and 136 into Abingdon. So as these storms quickly move off the north and east, the main concern will be some downed trees, down power lines, things like that. You may lose power as these storms move through. So if you do lose power, one of the ways you can stay informed is by downloading our free Storm Track 5 mobile app. You can watch the radar just as we're doing now on your television with us. You can track the storms on there. You can get alerts sent to your phone. So if you live in areas east of where these warnings are in effect, so let's say Smith County, places like that, if a warning is issued later this afternoon for your neck of the woods, you'll get an alert right there on your phone. That app is free in the Google Play and iTunes app stores. You can also, of course, send us pictures. WCYB.com/chime-in. It's the best place to send pictures to, because everyone in the building has access to that, and we're able to all quickly see them. But you can also send them to us on Facebook and Twitter. If you have a report that's maybe not a picture, you can send us that to us at Facebook and Twitter as well. And of course, all of our social media accounts, we're monitoring those as the storms push through. And Dave, we've been kind of watching the radar, watching these line of storms come through, and the Weather Service continuing to issue the warnings as they move off to the north and east.
Yeah, maybe a good idea right now to kind of give a broad perspective of this entire line of storms is maybe we could pull out a little bit on the radar and show where it extends all the way up into the Pikeville area. So this is going to be, even though Buchanan and Dickinson County do not have a warning yet, maybe the National Weather Service in Charleston, which is the jurisdiction that they cover into that part of Southwest Virginia, Dickinson, Buchanan County, whether or not Buchanan County, Dickinson County are put under a warning, that would be Charleston, West Virginia's decision. But certainly that line of storms is pushing now into the Clintwood area right now, and we're pushing through the rest of the Dickinson County area and eventually into Buchanan County. So heads up into Grundy and Van Sant and Nora and Hayside and these areas, because these storms, while not warned for, easily could have some wind gusts up to around 40 to 50 miles per hour. But the thing I want to point out here is it extends all the way from Dickinson County now, all the way through Wise County, Scott County, now pushing in and just very close to the Kingsport area, and then down to the Greenville area. And that appears to be where the severe threat begins to end. As far as areas south of Greene County, I think there will be less of a threat for severe weather as this line comes eastward, but certainly the heart of our viewing area, including the Tri-Cities, will most likely be within some sort of severe thunderstorm warning, maybe an isolated tornado warning, but for sure we'll likely see numerous severe thunderstorm warnings continuing as they push off to the east. If you don't mind, let's go ahead and do a storm track from north to south, maybe not at one time, but maybe include northern areas and southern areas, just to kind of give a heads up here where we're going to be looking here over the next hour. All
right, so here's the northern part of the storm, Dave. We'll advance it off to the hour, for about an hour there, and there's some of the ETAs.
So it looks like Coburn, Grundy, Van Sant between now and 112. We got Big A Mountain, Whitewood, Richlands into Tazewell County, into Mullins around 152. So this storm obviously going to be impacting Southwest Virginia, but down to the south we can do another storm track to include the metro area, which is about ready to be on top of Kingsport here. And you can see as this moves off to the east-northeast at about 55, 60 miles per hour. We got Kingsport at 12:55, Colonial Heights about 1 o'clock, Tri-Cities Airport about 1:08, Johnson City, Bristol between 1:15, 1:20, and then Abingdon and Butler into Johnson, Carter County, Saltville, and Smith County, Mountain City at about 1:50. So roughly around 2:30 or so, David, it looks like we probably are going to be looking at 2:30 to 3, let's say, probably at the latest, is when we'll probably see this severe threat beginning to push out of the viewing area.
And then there's still some rain behind it, and temperatures are going to be tumbling behind this front. It's going to be falling into the 40s by late afternoon and into the early evening hours. So the leading edge has some of the heaviest rain and the strongest winds, and that's why there's severe thunderstorm warnings. And as we've been talking about, there's not really that much lightning, but there's still some very strong winds. And so that's the leading edge, and then there's rain all the way back to Knoxville and even a little bit further back.
How far back, Ricky, does that rain go if we pull back on the radar a little bit?
All the way back there into the Knoxville area and all the way down to Athens and down towards Chattanooga.
I mean, if we're thinking ahead maybe to the trick-or-treating time frame here, let's say between 5 and 8 o'clock this evening, we might have still some lingering showers, but even by 6 or 7, don't you think most of the rain's going to be pushing out? But then that part 2 of this storm is going to be taking effect. Like you were talking about, the sharply dropping temperatures, the gusty winds are going to be out there.
Breezy.
And so not only are we going to have falling temperatures, but there's going to be a wind chill to be dealing with, even if it's not raining. But even some of the high elevations, some of our forecast models have been hinting at maybe even a transition over some snow flurries or maybe some patchy freezing drizzle late this evening, where we see temperatures drop below freezing. So that's another thing we need to keep in mind. But I don't think we have to worry anything about that for the vast majority of the population as far as accumulation. We're not expecting any.
The shock of the cold air pushing in.
The shock and awe of the system. Here's the, go ahead and do that. Let's do that future radar again, looking ahead.
Sure, give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up a different.
And I was just thinking of another thing. The leaves, when the winds start getting pretty gusty out there, are going to start falling off pretty quickly tonight.
Yeah.
And another thing that may cause with some of the rain is maybe some of the storm drains don't drain as effectively or efficiently as they normally would. Might get some ponding of water, and it's also a little kind of added slickness to the road too, especially in those intersections when you're trying to come to a stop later on tonight. There may be some leaves on the road that might cause a little bit of trouble for travelers as well.
Very true. Now here's the future radar we were talking about, and still some lingering showers at 6 p.m. mainly east of the Tri-Cities, the cold air pouring in, and then by around 8 or 9 o'clock it looks like that's when there may be a couple of snowflakes, a couple of snow showers, or like you said, some freezing drizzle way up high, 4,000 or 5,000 feet. So highest elevations may see a few snowflakes tonight after being in the 70s.
I know.
This afternoon.
Crazy weather pattern. Just earlier this week we had near record highs in the mid to upper 70s. I'm thinking tomorrow we're probably, I don't know what our temperatures now, but we're likely to be pretty close to 70 or low 70s before this line of storms comes in. Thinking that we will go from the low 70s to near or below freezing by morning. It's 74 now. You can see the Tri-Cities Airport. No, am I looking at that?
Yeah, Tri-Cities Airport. It's near 80 in Elizabethton, but notice it's 61 now in Jonesville, 58
49
Middlesboro,
in London.
49 in London. So that cold air is
even in
racing
Knoxville
east.
now. It's already down to 57.
Yeah, right.
So temperatures do drop pretty quickly behind this front. So that's just another thing to prepare for. Of course, short term over the next 2 hours or so, we'll be concerned about the possibility of some at least localized damaging wind gusts as this line of storms pushes eastward. But as this map shows here, we got 75 now in Marion, 76 in Abingdon. We got 74 at the Tri-Cities Airport, 79 now in Elizabethton, Rogersville at 71. Jonesville, though, is already down to 61. Middlesboro in Kentucky already down to 58. So we're looking at a sharp drop in temperatures almost instantly, no, maybe not instantly, but within a half hour or so as this line of storms comes through. We'll go quickly down in the 60s, and then later this afternoon and evening, later 50s and then 40s for that, probably upper 40s to low 50s for that trick-or-treat weather. But anyway, short term, the main thing we want to just emphasize is that we still have some obviously severe weather threats regarding this line of storms. We're not worried about hail, maybe an isolated spin-up, but probably weak tornado. But as Ricky was pointing out earlier, even if it's a straight line wind of 60 or 70 miles per hour, that effectively can do the same kind of damage that a weak tornado is doing. Now, we're not necessarily saying these storms have 60 to 70 mile an hour winds widespread, but there might be a gust or two that does reach that threshold. But at least, don't you think, David, a 40 to 50 mile an hour gust would be quite possible as this line of storms comes through many areas.
And as Ricky mentioned a little bit earlier, the ground is pretty saturated right now, and so it's not going to take a lot of wind. Even a 40 or 50 mile an hour wind gust could knock down some trees and power lines. So we're seeing that line of heavy rains producing the strong winds, still very little to no lightning with this storm, if you will. But the severe thunderstorm warning is in place until 1:30. The most intense part of the storm now moving into the west part of Kingsport. It's over Gate City and still to the west of Hilton's and to the west of Nicholsville. It's racing to the east over Fort Blackmore, and then further to the north, the one more severe thunderstorm warning. This includes Wise County until 1:15. And we'll zoom out and show you the big picture again. So now we have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning. This just coming in now for Dickinson and Buchanan County. With that intense storm around Hayside, some intense winds there. And that severe thunderstorm warning is in place until 1:45. So there's the leading edge, the very heavy rain, strong winds near and east of Hayside. It's going to be moving northeast toward Grundy and Hurley here over the next 30 minutes or so. So now we have the line extending southward into the Tri-Cities. We'll zoom in a little bit closer into Kingsport. So there's the western edge of Kingsport around Bays Mountain, seeing some of the stronger winds. And go over to our velocity mode here. Yeah, it's still looking like straight line winds. No tornado signature showing up there, so that's some good news. But very strong winds, some gusty winds, Bays Mountain, Lynn Garden, northward to around Hilton's. And then we'll go up to the north, seeing the strong winds around Dungannon, Coburn. Further to the north, also some intense winds, Clinchco, Hayside, and moving northeast toward Grundy.
David, a new warning here. This one just came out a minute ago. It's going to be for Sullivan, Washington, and Carter counties. So the areas that weren't under the warning before, this does include Boones Creek, Piney Flats, Johnson City, Jonesboro, Okolona, Elizabethton, Lamar. You go further north into gray, kind of including that other warning there. Oh, actually, that right there. So Boones Creek gray, Sulphur Springs, all those areas under, excuse me, this new severe thunderstorm warning. If we take graphics 3 to full, what I want to show you is the storms. Dave, you were pointing this out to me a second ago. Looks like kind of like a shelf cloud moving into the Kingsport area. So we're up there, as you see the camera there from our Ashley Home Store camera network punched up. And right there, kind of in the distance on the leading edge is where that potential shelf cloud would be. And that is an area of rain-cooled air pushing
right
in.
Through here, if you can see this right here. So this oftentimes indicative of, like you say, some rain-cooled air pushing out in advance of the storm, Ricky, and that oftentimes with this kind of setup is when you will have maybe those damaging straight-line wind gusts, even though it's not really officially a thunderstorm because there isn't any lightning. But this here is our viewpoint from Eaststone Drive in Kingsport, and it still is dry. The trees do not look like they're really moving around too much, but we'll probably see here within the next 10-15 minutes or so that some of these wind gusts will be starting to pick up as well as the storm continues to push now into the western middle parts of the Kingsport area, but we'll quickly be pushing into the east side of Kingsport here on the Eaststone Drive here in just a little while. David, you can probably point out where that storm is in relationship to Kingsport proper here right now.
Yeah, we'll zoom in a little bit closer. So the intense part of the storm now around the Ridgefields Country Club, around Bays Mountain, very close to Meadowview, Sullivan Gardens, John Adams Elementary, down around Blair Gap and Fall Branch, seeing the leading edge of these intense winds. Severe thunderstorm warning also around Weber City, moving east toward Hilton's. So we're going to put another storm track on this storm. So this storm is moving northeast about 55. This one's moving east about 45. So we're going to clear all this out and zoom out. We're going to put a storm track on the entire line here.
Maybe also after you do that, go back to the Kingsport camera as well. But you'll finish this up here.
All right, so we're going to zoom in just a little bit closer. There we go. So now we're going to put the storm track on this entire line right through here, moving to the east at about 50 miles an hour. So that's going to be putting it into the Kingsport area basically now. Jonesboro by around 112, Tri-Cities Airport 113, moving into Bristol around 120, 125 or so, into Abingdon around 130. And now we can go over to graphics 3 and check out the Kingsport camera once again.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just showing how quickly this was moving, you know, just a couple of minutes ago, this particular shelf cloud was quite a bit off into the distance, but just within the past few minutes or so, we've seen that that shelf cloud continuing to push eastward, likely to have a period of gusty winds as it moves into this part of the area. We probably obviously have had the gusty winds moving through the central part of Kingsport around Holston Valley Medical Center and then back toward, let's say, Allendale Mansion. I mean, that area has already been getting in on the action here, but this is about ready to move in here toward Buffalo Wild Wings and areas around Eastman Road and extending eventually where we're looking at here on Eaststone Drive here on the east side of Kingsport. So just wanted to give you a quick look at that. David, you can go back and talk about the radar real quick.
Okay, so now we're going to pull up the radar again and show you that the storms are stretching from north to south, stretching from Birchleaf and Hayside. So this is the northern extent of the line with the very strong winds, heavy rains moving northeast toward Grundy. So that's the northern edge. Then now moving into the Coburn area towards St. Paul and Castlewood. Heads up for the rain and wind moving your way. Nicholsville, Hilton's going to be getting it very soon. Then we'll zoom in and show you that the wind's picking up around Bloomingdale, throughout all of Kingsport now, Colonial Heights, and close to the 2681 interchange, down to around Taylor's Mill and Telford, and down to near Chuckey as well. And we're going to check in. We're going to go over to Preston real quick with an update on what he has gathered on the storms.
Hey guys, I've been watching some of the storm reports coming in from across the region, and as you guys were tracking that across coming in from the west, we're starting to see the most damage reports coming out of the Knoxville area, Claiborne County, and Jefferson County as well. I was reading just from our affiliate in WBIR just a moment ago is reporting that 2 people have been taken to the hospital in the Knoxville area. That was after a tree fell onto a van as it was traveling down a road there. A little closer to home, we're hearing of numerous trees down. You were mentioning a moment ago of Claiborne County. They've had numerous trees reported down there. Also, the National Weather Service reporting several trees down in the Jefferson County area. Then as we move closer into our own viewing area, Lee County reporting some trees down there in Knox County. Also, that one's from Knox County, if I can get back to the Lee County one here. But hearing of trees down with those strong winds is what we're hearing about. Now, if you are in an area and it's safe to do so, here's where you can help us and tell this story by sending us pictures and video. The easiest way to do that is by going to WCYB.com/chime in, upload those pictures to us. It helps our weather team be able to see exactly what has happened in your area, but only do that when it is safe to do so. And as Ricky's been saying, and David several times, if you were to lose power at any point during these storms this afternoon, make sure you have the Storm Track 5 and News 5 mobile apps. Those have our coverage on there. You can watch throughout the day. The radar is also there, and that will work in case that you do lose power. Maybe a good time also to go ahead and plug the phone up, make sure it's charged as best it can be in case your power is to go off, and also go ahead and download that app if you've not already done so. It's free to download at the App Store and also on Google Play. But again, starting right now to hear of some trees down, no major damage at this point. I've been talking to Olivia Bailey. She's talking with her Southwest Virginia sources and working what we may be seeing in that area. We'll continue to follow that from the news side. Again, as you're watching us, if you see anything in your area, let us know what it's like. Going to head back over, I think, now to Dave Dirks and the latest on where the storm is moving.
Yeah, these storms continue to race off to the east really quickly at 55 miles per hour. Preston, your update there just really hits home the point that we're trying to drive home this afternoon. That is that while we probably aren't going to see widespread structural damage from these winds, we probably will see, like those trees that are going to be knocked over, at least tree branches or maybe even whole trees. And that is really as dangerous as anything else. It may not affect a lot of people. If it doesn't hit your home, it doesn't hit your vehicle, you're probably going to be okay. But like those 2 people that were injured in the Knoxville areas, that tree fell on a vehicle. We just want you to be aware and just make sure that you're being safe and avoiding any danger if you don't have to be involved with it. The storm's not going to last long. It's going to come through your area in probably less than a half hour. At least the dangerous potentially part of the storm is going to come through very quickly. And again, it may not produce any damage at your home, but down the road it might knock down a tree, and we just want everybody to be safe as this line of storms comes through. It's not probably going to be the worst severe outbreak we've ever seen. For sure it won't be, but for sure it's one we want you to stay on top of. Because if it falls on your vehicle, it falls on your home, it's a big deal, and that's why we want to make sure that we're covering this for you as this line of storms now, David, is moving across the metro area. The Kingsport area soon to be into the the Johnson City, Jonesboro, Bristol, Jonesboro, Johnson City, Abingdon area, Greenville, for example, all going to be in line for this storm. Looking at one of our TDOT cameras here along Interstate 81. Mile marker 53 here on Interstate 81 in Sullivan, right along the Sullivan-Washington County line. Obviously have some rain coming down pretty hard right now, and traffic seems to be flowing okay, but still some of those storms yet to race across the region. And Interstate 81 among many roads, David, that will be impacted here over the next hour or so.
Yeah, I've been checking out the TDOT cameras to see how the road conditions are. And so now we're looking at Interstate 81 and 26 interchange, the rain coming down heavily there. Another update on the radar, give you the big picture once again. So we're tracking a line of storms, very little lightning with these storms, but they have a lot of heavy rains and also gusty winds. And the storms are now stretching from the Grundy area all the way down to near Gray, still to the west of Gray right now, over Limestone and Fall Branch. The heaviest rain over Kingsport as well. We'll pull up our Kingsport camera again. Let it load here. We're seeing the sky's getting pretty dark here, and the rain will be pretty heavy for a time. And now we're going to go over to the storm reports, because we've been seeing a few storm reports coming in. As Preston was mentioning, the worst of the damage that we've heard of so far in our viewing area is in Lee County, with several trees knocked down. The storm's now well to the east. update the severe thunderstorm warning there. So
That
we're going
may
to
be
recap
just kind
the
of
warnings just real quickly. On the southern edge, this severe thunderstorm warning including Jonesboro and Johnson City, this in place until 1:45. Then we head to the north, and the severe thunderstorm warning that includes most of Sullivan County and also Scott, Washington, Virginia counties, and Russell County, that's in place until 1:30. The storm still over eastern Wise County. So that warning's going to be expiring here soon, 1:15. And the most northern storm Buchanan, Dickinson counties, that's going to be expiring at about 1:40. So there's the only official storm report that we've had in the viewing area and in Lee County. And the main threats we have right now, the heavy rains and also the strong gusty winds. And behind this front, temperatures are going to be coming crashing down. So it's still 74 degrees here in the Tri-Cities, but it's already 57 in Knoxville, 48 in London, 43 in Crossville. So it's this strong cold front that's moving east that's helping to produce the showers and the thunderstorms. Dave, we're going to go over to you.
Yeah, we've gotten some reports, and Ricky's going to pull up a map here in just a second. Just wanted to give you an idea that AEP is reporting that some power outages are being reported across parts of southwest Virginia and northeast Tennessee. As I get a little bit closer here, Ricky, it doesn't look like perhaps a lot of outages, but we are getting at least some across the AEP area.
Yeah, it's not an incredible amount, Dave, but certainly some that are across the area causing some outages. You can see roughly around 3,000 customers. Most of those are actually kind of out of our area, more towards the Princeton, West Virginia area and towards Bluefield. But we may see these numbers climb a little bit as the winds come through. Not just even the thunderstorm winds, but even kind of behind this line of storms. We're still going to have some gusty winds, 30 to 40 miles per hour. So not unheard of to have some downed trees with that and cause some outages as well.
Yeah, so it doesn't appear that we're seeing a significant power outage threat at this point in time, but scattered in a few areas. But thankfully, so far, at least within our viewing area, we do not have a lot of reports of power outages as these storms are coming through. But as Sheriff Parsons let us know a little while ago in Lee County, that there are a number of trees down throughout the county and some, I would call it probably spotty power outages or widely scattered power outages in Lee County. And as you saw from that AEP power map, outage map, that they're kind of spotty around the area where these storms have been coming through, or at least getting ready to come through. But looking ahead as we go through the rest of today, we're right now, was it 76, David, at the airport? It was in the mid-70s last report. But take a look at our hour-by-hour forecast as we go through the rest of the afternoon and into that time frame when folks are going to be heading out for trunk-or-treating or trick-or-treating or any Halloween parties or what have you. A lot of planning has gone into, I'm sure, tonight, and just want you to have a little extra planning as far as putting weather in part of that planning is the fact that the severe threat is going to be over by 4 or 5 this afternoon, but then that's when the cold air and the gusty winds stick around, not severe winds necessarily, but certainly winds that will get your attention when temperatures start coming down from 2 p.m. around 70 at the airport, 56 by 4 p.m., 50 at 6 p.m., and then down to 43. Take a look at that drop from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., from 70 to 43, 10 p.m. temperature of 39, and it looks like we may actually, by the wee hours of the morning, be getting close to freezing. In fact, a freeze warning has been issued for all of the viewing area, just about, for the overnight hours, and that's just going to be the tip of the iceberg, playing words there, as we go into the weekend, because it's going to be cold, not dangerously so, but it's going to be cold right on through the upcoming weekend. And David, you're kind of showing us how these temperatures are going to be dropping from right now, and yet I like how we're going to go hour by hour here and see how these temperatures are going to be dropping.
Right, so here at 2 o'clock, still going to be in the 70s, Bluff City, Elizabethton, but already in the 50s in Jonesville. Then by 3 o'clock, the Tri-Cities area, basically around 60 degrees, but wind chills now in the 40s, Harlan, Kentucky. Then by 4 p.m., wind chills in the 40s in Burgoynesville and Big Stone Gap. Wind chills in the 40s in Kingsport and Greenville by 5 p.m. And then by 6 o'clock, wind chills in the 40s everywhere. And notice also by 6 o'clock, wind chills are going to be near freezing in Wise. So it's going to be a rapid cool down behind this strong cold front.
But if you don't mind, go back, David. You don't have to take me on camera. Well, I guess I'm not on camera. You don't have to take me on camera. But go back and just show how this wind shift is going to happen. Yeah. Let's go back maybe toward this afternoon. See those strong winds out of the south you know, those are strong winds in advance of the cold front. And you can watch how the winds shift from south to west. And once those winds shift from that south to west, that's going to be the beginning of the cold air coming in. And it's almost, you know, pretty quickly right behind the front. And
the end of the severe threat, too.
What's that?
And the end of the severe
exactly.
threat.
So, yeah, like we've been talking about, the severe threat as far as damaging wind gusts are concerned, it doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of those damaging wind gust reports, but certainly we still have the severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect for a good portion of the metro right now. As we zoom in, we can give you an idea of how these progressed over the past 10 or 15 minutes while we've been kind of talking about the Halloween outlook as far as you know, the evening hours. But it looks like now, David, from Jonesboro up toward the east of the Fall Branch area, Kingsport, of course, getting it right now, and maybe we can go to also Bloomingdale, and maybe if we can go to, or we do have a split screen right now, so we can show you the Eastone Drive camera, which obviously has some heavy rain falling now on the east side of Kingsport, like we said was going to be happening, but that of course is going to be moving toward Bluntville, Colonial Heights, Central Heights Elementary School, heading toward the Bristol area, Hilton's, Mendota in Washington County, and right now it's extending across the Washington County, Tennessee area as well, these storms, and moving off to the east at about 55 to 60 miles per hour. So we got Tri-Cities Airport, Johnson City, Bristol between now and 1:30, Honaker in Russell County 136, Abingdon 146, Richlands and Saltville there getting closer to 2 o'clock, and we got Chatham Hill and Marion in Smith County. So by about 2:30, these storms, or even earlier than 2:30, are going to be pushing through Smith County and also Johnson County pretty quickly. And then beyond that, it starts to push out of our viewing area, David.
David,
Right.
I'll jump in here real quick because I got some storm reports to talk about. So we have a report from the Sheriff Chris Holder, who is out of Scott County. He says no reports of any structural damage across Scott County, which is great news, of course. But as we look in other parts of Scott County, got a report from a viewer who said a tree unfortunately fell onto her car. So certainly something we don't like to hear there. Other than that, we've heard some reports of trees down in Greene County, also some reports of some trees down in Lee County, but primarily just reports of trees down this afternoon, which is great news. Of course, unfortunately, we don't want it to fall on anyone's homes or cars or anything like that, like the one unfortunate viewer. But certainly, it looks like most of what we're dealing with is kind of just some scattered trees down across the area.
So that's the thing that we'll have to keep an eye on. As I mentioned, these storms, and as we've been talking about, are moving off to the east at about 55 to 60 miles per hour. So they're not lasting long. At least the dangerous potential of these storms are not lasting more than 15 minutes or so. Really, I mean, the rain sticks around maybe longer than that. But as far as the potential for some damaging wind gusts, it might take down a tree or two around the viewing area in these severe thunderstorm warned counties. David, you got the wind velocity showing up right here, and you kind of narrowing it down to where the strongest winds aloft are. You've taken off some of the lower levels.
Yeah, we're scanning the storm here for the strongest winds. Looks like some strong winds moving into Bristol right now, and also some strong winds St. Paul, and then also near the Hurley and Grundy areas. So that's where we're seeing some of the strongest wind gusts right now. But also noticing, Dave, that here on the radar, that it looks like these storms are beginning to weaken a little bit. It's still producing heavy rains and gusty winds over Kingsport, but it looks like the storms are getting a little bit wider. They're not quite as narrow, indicating that those really strong winds. And also we're seeing more yellows instead of reds. So again, still pouring and still some gusty winds. It looks like the most intense storms that are actually northward around Nicholsville and Castlewood. So it's still a severe thunderstorm warning for Kingsport and Bluntville, but it looks like the storms may be trending down just a little bit, maybe not quite as intense as they were about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, and that's some good news. So perhaps this area moving through the eastern part of Scott County, except as you get northeast of Nicholsville, as David was pointing out, from near Nicholsville up towards Castlewood along the Russell, Wise, and Scott County line, these storms are moving off to the east and still have, I think, some potential for some damaging thunderstorm wind, not thunderstorm, or at least we keep saying thunderstorm. They're really just rainstorms because they don't have a lot of lightning with them. A little bit of action here, maybe a little of a Boeing action here going on in the eastern part of, in the central northern part of Washington County, Tennessee, maybe around Gray and Boones Creek and down towards Sulphur Springs and Jonesboro. Keep an eye on that. Interstate 26, obviously, back up along where Interstate 26 and 81 come together. The rain is heavy. Not necessarily sure that we're seeing a lot of damaging winds with these storms down on the south side of this, but certainly could be a damaging gust or two with that warning still in place for a good portion of Washington County, Tennessee, into the eastern part of Carter County, and also into Sullivan County, close to the Bristol area. And then again, it looks like maybe the more intense part of the line of storms is heading northward into parts of Russell, Scott, and also along the Washington County line, getting close to that anyway, near Mendota.
And meteorologist Sydney Welch is out in our storm tracker now. She has been traveling west, where we had some of the storm reports coming in a little bit earlier. Sydney, what are you reporting right now? What are you seeing?
Hey folks, on 11W here. We're headed towards Kingsport. Now, between the drive from Bristol to here, you really weren't seeing much until about 2 minutes back. We started seeing winds gusting around. The visibility reduced immediately. We drove right into basically this wall, which is this line of storms with the rain, the winds, and the reduced visibility. First came the winds though, leaves going across the road. Now here's the heavy rain. This is basically a rain and wind event, especially where I'm located right now on 11W, headed towards Kingsport. And what we're watching, rain coming down, gusty winds. A few times we've had to slow our speed about 10 to 20 miles below the speed limit, leaves across the road from these gustier winds blowing the dead leaves off of the trees. Visibility reduced quite a bit. So if you do have the option not to be on the roads right now, I would take that option. Winds are coming right at us right now, pushing the car around the road just a bit. Both hands on the wheel for the driver right now. Also, there is plenty of water on the roadways. I'm watching it accumulate on the roadways as it's very heavily coming down right now. Windshield wipers are allowing us to see, but as I keep saying, visibility is definitely reduced. And we drove into this basically like a wall. We went from Bristol, seeing even clear skies in spots in Bristol. As we headed down 11W, slowly but surely watching clouds build. Then came the wind, blowing plenty of leaves across the road, and now we're on 11W, passing White Performance and Machine. Also, right quick is to our left-hand side. We're headed towards Kingsport, where the rain is really coming down right now. Visibility incredibly reduced, and the winds. This is mainly a rain and wind event. Let's take another look at the radar back in the studio. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Sydney. Yeah, obviously some heavy rain, and I think her advice is well spoken with the idea of maybe staying put until this line of storms comes through your area. Again, we're seeing mainly just for some reports of some tree damage. That's the main thing. Did have a report of that tree falling down on a vehicle. That, of course, is a serious situation for a person that's involved with that. But I want to show you that we do have some increasing intensities on these northern storms here that are racing now through Buchanan County, David, and you want to give us an update on a severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect.
Yeah, Ricky and I have been looking at this, and this actually looks like the most intense thunderstorm cell. We call it thunderstorm, but it's really just very heavy rain, strong winds. It's already pushed through Hurley and now over Grundy, producing the rain. So it looks like the most intense part of the wind is now going to be moving out of the viewing area, but just a heads up that that's the most impressive storm right now. The good news is that as we look at the radar here, in general, it looks like this line of showers and heavy winds looks like they're weakening just a little bit. So it's still quite gusty, but it still could produce some sporadic tree and power line damage. But it looks like it's beginning to weaken just a little bit, so that's some good news. But we still have quite a bit of rain to go, and then of course we have the cold air to go. Not seeing any recent reports of wind damage coming in officially from the National Weather Service. But again, as we track this strong cold front, 74 degrees right now in the Tri-Cities, 57 in Knoxville, 48 in London. So it's going to be that cold air that pours in the Tri-Cities here over the next little bit. And here's the big picture again. We had a little bit of sunshine earlier in the Tri-Cities, and that helped to fuel the storms a little bit. But thankfully, we didn't see much in the way of more instability. So we did have enough instability come from these storms, from the sunshine to help fuel the storms. But it looks like that it's beginning to lose some of the fuel, so that's some good news. But again, watching the possibility of some gusty winds in a few locations. So Dave and Ricky, we're going to go over to you.
Yeah, I don't know if we can real quickly go to the graphics too. Wanted to just give you a quick update on the power outage map from AEP. We're looking at a little larger area that, or at least a few more customers that are without power in Scott and also Russell County, about 200 to 300 there, and those counties that are shaded in green, and in the blue shaded areas, that indicates less than 100 customers that are without power in Hawkins and Sullivan and up into the rest of southwestern Virginia, but a couple hundred to 300 without power now in Scott and Russell County. And of course, as you all have been mentioning, these storms continue as we go back. As we go back maybe to the radar here, we can show you that things are still moving off to the east rather quickly, but it does look like these storms heading through the metro have been weakening a bit over the past 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, one warning still in effect for Buchanan County. It's going to go until 2 o'clock. That one just came out. What we're going to do is we're going to continue to monitor the storms kind of behind the scenes, of course, on social media as well. And if any more tornado warnings are issued, we'll certainly be back on the air very quickly to bring you information on that. But it's been a whirlwind last hour and a half here.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for your good coverage and appreciate the team coverage. Of course, Sydney out in our storm tracker. I say we have the best team, not only in the market, but the best weather team we got in all of the country with you guys here. And I appreciate, well, I'm a little bit biased, of course, too, but I appreciate you guys' help. You guys are awesome, and appreciate our viewers sticking with us and trusting the Storm Track 5 weather team when it comes to severe weather. So.
Yeah, we'll keep tracking the storms here behind the scenes. We'll break into programming and bring you updates on air, online, on our mobile apps as well, especially if we have any more tornado warnings. But at this point, it looks like the storms are beginning to trend down, Dave.
Yeah, and that's some good news. So hope you all stay with us. We'll have more coverage as necessary. And, of course, join us tonight on News 5 starting at 5 o'clock for any storm damage. And, of course, we'll have the latest on that Halloween forecast as temperatures start to drop quickly. Winter is approaching quickly, at least temperature-wise.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Have a good afternoon.